Well, first off, it's going to be integrated into all of our tools, whether we like it or not, or whether we say it or not. So leaders should be prepared for that. We're not necessarily talking about some sort of doomed future state. At this point, where we're at, there could be real value and benefits so long as you apply it appropriately. And then for any organization in publishing, like PBS, integrity matters.
So I'm just curious, what are some creative ways that you've been thinking about content repurposing and even digital products?
This is where the crazy idea list starts.
Welcome back. Today, I'm joined in conversation with Mikey Centrella, Director of Product at PBS HQ, who's revolutionizing public media through AI-driven innovation while ensuring technology serves both mission and audience. Welcome, Mikey.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I'm really excited to have you here. Mikey and I met a few months ago, and I was really excited to learn about all the things he's been working on, and I've been following along ever since. So I'm excited to introduce Mikey's brain and incredible work at PBS to you all today. So you wrote about AI giving rise to new voices, and I 100% love that vision. I'm curious, what excites you most about AI opening doors for diverse storytellers?
It's really a wonderful time that we're living in terms of video and filmmaking. It's a renaissance. The pandemic helped accelerate that to some degree, but with generative AI, what I'm most excited about, and AI in general, is that for visual storytellers, folks who make productions for PBS or other networks, the AI tools can really help to bring these stories to life without a huge budget, right? Like we, as a society, we're consuming so much video more than ever. And it's kind of hard to turn it out and get it out the door faster. But now production crews, video production crews or editors can work faster than they ever could before as a result of a couple things, cloud and AI. And integrating AI into video and film and animation will help make storytelling a little bit more better or enhanced, a new level of creativity. It's going to give accessibility essentially to folks who may not have those huge budgets, right? And it will create this sort of democratization of access that allows folks to make high quality production without having to go across the other sides of the earth to shoot something or to do something in an edit suite without having to have all those expensive rendering machines. And so that to me is really big, right? That allows new voices to be elevated and new creators to step into the scene in ways that hasn't happened before. And that'll be true for all things in video production, scripted or live or documentary style, all of those things that will be enhanced. Professional video editing, animation, it'll be a little bit easier and faster and more seamless. So I'm really stoked about that. And that's what I meant essentially, that it's going to open new doors because storytellers will have the opportunity to create new stories in different ways. I also think that for audiences like ourselves who consume a lot of these videos, we will be able to also take part in the story in new ways. Now, that may be a little bit farther down the road in the future, but you can probably imagine you could maybe prompt your video app to say, I want to turn down the music track, or I want the music track to be uplifting in the sequence, or I'd love to see how this scene ends with a happy ending versus a sad ending. And there may be an opportunity for video producers like ourselves to create that, to allow that to happen with generative AI.
That's so cool. I love that. So much of the narrative out there is a lot of hand-wringing and pearl clutching. So I'm with you. There's so much opportunity, and this Rise to New Voices piece of it is so incredible and so important. So follow-up question, maybe different energy, is what keeps you up at night about the acceleration of AI?
A lot of things. Deepfakes, certainly. I'm very scared about that. But I think really, maybe I'll take a different tone here. AI technology is really not actually the enemy per se. It becomes the enemy when we allow it to do things for us instead of us doing themselves, right? When we allow it to make judgments instead of us making those judgments. And even though deepfakes scare me, I'm actually more worried that copy and pasting, people, as AI gets integrated into our lives, we see it now in all of our platforms. It's in search now. It's in a lot of like your office type of work tools. We might give our judgment over to it for
Mm,
speed or for ease or for
mhm.
pressure. And so what does that mean? Does that mean the work, the output that we're getting from AI becomes a little bit more homogenous? If we blindly start all suggesting AI to do our work for us, does that mean we as humans won't be doing the critical thinking anymore? And we just keep offloading everything over to AI? Does that make us dumber in some ways? I don't know, but certainly I'm concerned about it, right? Like that homogeneity, that monocultureness, that misinformation, that saying that will be all over everything that we do, I think is a bit concerning. And so sometimes when I talk about AI, I think about what it is that AI can't do, right? And this is why it concerns me because AI, it doesn't understand and can't do things that we do as humans that create our thinking, right? Essentially, AI doesn't really think. It doesn't do associative thinking in the way we do. It doesn't have
Right.
emotions. It doesn't have memories. It doesn't have sense. It doesn't have feelings. And so our intelligence, human intelligence, is grown there, like relationships and dialogue and collaboration, connecting all those things together. So anyway, if we stop doing that and we'll just allow AI to do everything for us, what happens
Yeah.
there? So I'm very concerned about that. And I'm also very concerned about deepfakes.
Yeah, those seem like the right two things to put at the top of your list. I know Microsoft has already done released some early studies about the impact on critical thinking from over reliance on AI. And another one of these conversations I had with Dave Jimison, who's an AI product innovation person, he came out with this headline: "Productivity is the wrong metric." If that's what we're chasing with these tools, then we're making a big mistake. And I've certainly seen that in my own experience. I'm happy that we're early days.
What do you think is the right metric if it's not productivity? Because efficiency and productivity are good outputs from
Yeah.
AI.
Yeah, I know. I actually got into a little fight with him on LinkedIn about it because I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And it's similar to you and the way you responded to the new voices question. I said, "I think by freeing people up from a bunch of barriers that they used to have, essentially making them more productive, they can do so much more. They can actually drive more impact and have more reach." And so he and I got on a video call just like this, and we talked it out. And where we got to, and what I loved is the last question I asked him. So I said, "What is the right metric?" And he said liberation, which I
Hmm.
thought was such an incredible, and I got it. I really understood what he meant there. So similarly, I've seen you share some really compelling perspectives about AI on LinkedIn. And I know one thing that you've talked about is how it enables teams to focus on mission critical work. And I'm really curious, you're an organizational leader at PBS. So what have you learned about leading organizational change in the age of AI?
Well, there's a lot of still misunderstanding about what it is or what it can do. Any one of us can really use AI, whether it's generative AI or machine learning or automation in some way to help us do what we need to do, to find those answers or to do those tedious tasks again, to be more productive. I think where AI accelerates really right now in its abilities is again with recognizing patterns or summarization. I'm giving you some idea starters, helping you think through stuff, being your clerk, taking your notes, or being your coach or co-creator. But I think organizationally, a lot of folks still need to know how to use it and what to use it for. So even though every particular job in my mind can find a use for it, a lot of people aren't really sure how to use it. And so people recognize that the technology is there and available to help, but for what and why? And so that misunderstanding, I think there's a potential there in every organization to help upskill your staff to understand a little bit more about where the technology is at and what you can use it for, whether it's in your day to day or in sort of bigger functions, and understanding how to do that appropriately. And of course, being aware of governance and risks and all of the things that you should do to protect your organization. But there's also, I think, a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, which sort of is something to combat and to be aware of too. It's a lot of hype and noise around what it could do or what it might become. And that can cause a little bit of challenging too in an organization to help combat a little bit of that and to let people know that, again, it's data and math that we're talking about. We're not necessarily talking about some sort of doom or some sort of future state. At this point, where we're at, there could be real value and benefits so long as you apply it appropriately. And then for any organization in publishing, like PBS or any public media organization, the integrity matters, right? So again, these tools can help us for lots of the work that we do. And I'm sure you might ask a question in a minute about what is that. But our journalistic integrity also matters, and ensuring accuracy, avoiding bias, all of the things that a journalist should normally be doing when we create a documentary or we're trying to do an investigative journalistic piece. We have to apply those same rules to the tools and the way we use those tools. But that I think that goes without saying, right? Transparency is essential. Accuracy is essential. Fact checking your work is essential to anyone who works in journalism. But sometimes you need a reminder. In an organization such as PBS, for folks, when we're talking about AI, it's important to just reiterate on a few of those things. So to reiterate on that it is just data and math, but we have to be careful. To reiterate on, we're going to test an experiment, but we may not get the right solution because it's not perfect technology at this moment. And to reiterate on our own editorial guidelines so that we ensure the outputs are what we want them to be.
Yeah, I think what you just pointed to there is something I've heard from a lot of organizational leaders. It's that balance between encouraging people to explore and experiment and really lean in and be creative and excited, and then also be cautious and aware, and particularly of the mistakes that can be made, and just keep things safe and within the bounds of the work that we expect from ourselves. So I think, this is an area of your real expertise. There's been a lot of buzz around personalization in media, and you're actually building it at PBS, which is so exciting. And I'm curious, what has surprised you most about how AI is changing the way we connect with audiences?
Well, what surprises me is that it makes a big difference, right? It leads to some of the larger business goals and could for any organization, but certainly for a video-based organization. It helps with retention. It helps people getting back and watching more of the shows that they love and engaging with them. It helps them discover or learn about new shows. And so personalization is really big. And whether or not we use AI or generative AI to empower it, it makes a big difference for an audience who wants a relationship with a brand, and certainly a brand that's providing content or knowledge or entertainment. And so the way we're doing it right now is with recommendation engines, which, of course, if you're on any video platform, you watch this, you may also like that. That makes a big difference in terms of helping you to not only discover stuff, but also to find things that you're going to like. And so that leads directly to retention. We're looking at personalized playlists, right? And folks like Spotify do this all the time, right? With this discover feature, discover something new. And so this helps you engage or learn about, get awareness of content that we might have in our catalog that you didn't know about. And so a personalized playlist built just for you can help expose you to more things that you might want to watch. And that leads you back to our apps and our content, and hopefully gives you a more rewarding experience. We're going to try and experiment a little bit with previews and recaps and notifications so that you can stay up to date or informed on of the show that you watched, or to get caught up on a show that you watched 2 weeks ago or last week, and to do it personalized for you in ways that you might like. We also use it for some of the more operational things. AI helps us a lot with content processing. So encoding, we get all the videos in the cloud and we need to make sure they're all the right file or bit rate when we deliver it to the household or to the device, same deal. And that it can speed things up there. Same with transcription and translations. It can help a lot with doing both of those things. And then screening content too. So the way we might screen a particular piece of content. And those things do lead to personalization as well, because it helps us deliver those videos to you and personalize them to you in the language that you want, on the device that you're on, and have it delivered in the right bit rate so that it's over the internet or however your connection is, so that you can see it and it's coming in clear. So those are some of the ways, but there are so many ways. And we are constantly thinking about other ways to get involved with personalization, maybe marketing, right? If there's events in your town, a screening or something happening at your local public media station, how can we share that with you in ways that make sense? Chatbots are certainly things that we're exploring too, and we'll talk about in a little bit, but chatbots can also have that personalization component in a very similar way. If you start speaking with something like a chatbot, it could know at least your preferences or things that you might like and make recommendations there.
Yeah, it's interesting with Astral, one of the first products we built was a chatbot because of the personalization thing. And we saw that, and we have a chatbot live with one of our customers, Gretchen Rubin now, and she's got decades and decades of content. She's written 7 best-selling books. She's got thousands of blog posts. It's just so much information. And what we saw is the minute we put that chatbot on her site, it did 2 things for her. One is it gave people a personal access point. They had a specific question related to a specific thing in their life, and it was able to answer it based on all of that information that she's already published and shared. So it made it really relevant and timely for them. And then 2 is we also then said, hey, you should check out this other thing. And we saw that the engagement rates with the, hey, you should check out this other thing were like nothing I've ever seen on a marketing site before, because it was just in time marketing. It was giving people the right thing at the right time. And I might also add, it's an incredible way to better understand your audience, right? You
For
basically,
sure.
yeah, it's like an always on survey, right? What are people wondering about? What are they curious about? What are the key topics and themes? And then you, of course, can use AI to do an analysis on all of that and help you plan what comes next, right?
Yeah, I mean, the opportunities are really endless. If we think about the way we can create better relationships, because I think in my mind, that's a personalization for us, PBS, and for most public publishers and media orgs is really about creating those good relationships with people who want to watch your stuff, people who want to learn about your products or about the stories that you write. And that AI is perfect to help with that in so many ways.
Yeah, it's amazing how the teeniest, tiniest little things just make or like open so many doors to potential, which I mean, it's interesting listening to you rattle off that list of all the ways you're thinking about applying AI and improve delivery to your audience and personalization and how you're making sure all of that stuff is working. And that was probably just the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah, if we had a lot more time, I could share my crazy list of ideas with
Yeah.
you. Is a bit crazy, but there's a lot more to it too. Again, there's so many different avenues you can go into, whether it is just internal workflows, even in just finance or operations, but certainly things that are external too, and how you can make personalization a huge difference for folks.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question for you, is that you've obviously you're at the forefront of AI innovation, specifically in public media. And I think looking ahead to the rest of this year, like, we can't go too far with AI because it's constantly changing. So just the next 6 months, let's say, what possibilities are you most excited about, and what do you think leaders should be preparing for?
Ooh, okay. Well, first off, it's going to be integrated into all of our tools, whether we like it or not, or whether we say it or not. So if you're a Microsoft customer, Microsoft Office, Microsoft 365, you're already seeing Copilot appear in all places. Same thing if you're a Google customer and you're using Google Cloud, GCP, same deal. You're seeing Gemini appear in all sorts of places. So it's here, and it's finally literally here in a lot of our office tools and our office environments. So leaders should be prepared for that, the fact that it's there. Leaders should also be prepared for the fact that people are using it. I've seen different stats come out. Anthropic on February 10th released a report of Claude usage and how many people are using it. And there's some good stats in there, but I think the numbers around like 30% of the workforce are in it, and only a small percentage of that workforce are literally using it for actual automated tasks. And the folks who are really utilizing it are engineering folks or data scientist folks. But the point is people are using it. And so leaders also have to acknowledge that. The fact is lots of folks at every organization are indeed using it. So that means you should give them guidelines, or you should give them access, or you should help them upskill so that they know how to do it. I think from an industry perspective, what we might start to see now is a decrease in link-based search, right? So you probably have seen the summaries appear in Google search, but Perplexity and OpenAI and other search tools are coming on the marketplace that are more AI summary based and less about driving links to your website. So we might see a decrease in that. And that might mean that we as publishers have to shift a little bit of how we actually market to these AI engines, AI search engines, AI platforms, so that we get we get our stories out there and people can discover us in a sort of similar way that we might do with a recommendation engine. We're actually going to have to market to these AI engines. So I think that's something that's going to happen in 2025 for sure, that we'll have to start to see. There was a lot of talk at the end of 2024 about agents and agentic and operative AI, which I think we will start to see more of that. And I'm not so sure that it will be a huge impact to everyone's business, but we will see advancements in AI in which tasks can happen in multiple sequences. And so for leaders, what I'm excited about for that is that if you do have things that you could automate, or you do have systems internally that could connect to other systems, and you could create a retrieval augmented generation bot so that you could find the answers to questions. If my product and engineering team is having a challenge with a plugin, and they open up a Slack channel, and then they ask somebody, and then that person goes to Confluence and then searches on a Confluence, which is some outdated document, et cetera, et cetera. Now it's 2 hours in. That may have been all solved with a simple AI bot that could have searched on all of those places and summarized those answers. So we're probably going to see more of that. And then the agent part of it would be the task. It could then fill a ticket out instead of a human being filling out a ticket on Jira, to actually fix that plugin or connect that plugin. So we'll see some of that. And I'm very excited about that, because again, that speeds up workflow or productivity, perhaps. But
Yeah.
it essentially, the state of the art today, it will increase our efficiency and our time doing tasks. And I'm very thrilled about that. But I will say this, there's also limitations too. We probably won't see AI create a feature film in 2025 in and of itself from a single prompt. The tech is not quite there yet. It's getting better, but I don't think we're going to see AGI in 2025. And I don't think we're going to see any sort of robots truly be integrated with AI in 2025 either.
Yeah, I agree. On the automation front, we have a workflow engine that's just all about automation. It's all about what you just described in your Slack example, from Slack to Confluence to Jira. And that's here, that exists. The only thing getting in our way is us right now for setting that stuff up. And one thing we've done with our engine too is we prompt the LLM to design the initial automation for us. And then we as beings come in and improve and make it better and smarter. But just the initial setup work, the LLM knows how to do it.
Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah.
It really is. It makes things easier, like low code, no code.
Yeah, exactly. So that stuff is all imminent. And I agree with you on the way we market is absolutely, it's already changed. People are seeing, I don't know about you, but I always look at SEO traffic data, and it's just wild to see these huge cliffs that people are experiencing with their search traffic over the past, it's been for a couple of years now, but recently worse.
It's a little scary from the publisher standpoint, just to know that these summaries could basically detract someone from going to your website. So then how do you get people to your website? How do you keep them coming back? And I think some of the things we talked about earlier, recommendation engines, personalization components, will do some of that. But it's the reality we're living in. So we've got to adapt to it.
Yeah. As someone who, I'm not a media person, but I have worked in the creator economy for a while now. And I've been beating the drum around owning your audiences for as long as I've been working. So I think that more and more critical. We can't rely on search. We can't rely on social algorithms. We really have to figure out how to build those relationships with people and delight them so that they stick around and keep coming back for more. So more
Totally.
important. Okay. You mentioned earlier tools. We got into sort of a conversation about ethics and guardrails, but there are some just super actionable tactical ways that nonprofit media companies can be leveraging Gen AI today. So I'm curious, what are 2 to 3 interesting ways that you think that people can be doing that?
Well, there's lots of ways. And again, how much time do we have? For media companies or nonprofit companies? Let's start with just more general stuff for nonprofits. Templates, right? Anything that you templatize, contracts or formats for your emails, or anything that has that sort of templated approach can be sped up with automation and certainly with AI, right? If you use OpenAI's ChatGPT, you could create a custom GPT, and you could train that GPT to upload your templates of the way you like things written, give it rules, and then, or if it's a contract, you could say, well, we've got a new contract for this so-and-so customer, and we need to do this, and it will output it for you really fast. So that would speed things up, certainly, in a big way, and it's an easy way to get started. And with ChatGPT, and as long as you're doing the paid platform so that your data is protected and anything you upload to is protected, you can use it and without deep knowledge, right? And you can get started right away. We talked about RAG briefly, or searching internal databases. I think that's a great tool as well. If you are on an enterprise platform like a Google or Microsoft or admin, I think using tools to help you find things, to summarize your information, will speed up workflows. Like, where do you find that document from the marketing team that talked about the show creative for this particular initiative that we're launching here? That's a good way to get started and to use AI in a way that things make things more effective. I know that creative teams are using it all the time for lots of different stuff, right? Idea generation in all sorts of categories, whether that might be coming up with new titles or headlines, or coming up with new ideas for social media posts. I would say use it largely for idea generation. Again, don't copy paste, but certainly have it help you tweak your understanding of what the right way to phrase something, or a different way to make something pop with words or with images. More sort of nuts and bolts stuff. Again, SEO, alt tags, meta information, metadata, all of that stuff. Generative AI is really good at doing that, and it can help accelerate that for you. Again, you can use a tool like ChatGPT to just say, how would you describe this video? What tags would you give it, etc., and it will help you get there. And there's way more too, but those are probably the biggest and the simplest ones for folks to jump into at the nonprofit organization for just general tasks that could help them really achieve more efficiency with their day-to-day work.
Yeah, that's amazing. And Astral's bread and butter is around RAG and template-driven transformation. So I totally get that. And one thing we always do with these interviews is we use our own templates to just instantly generate a blog post version of this conversation. And I'm thinking, as I'm listening to you rattle off that list, I'm also going to apply our checklist template, because I think you just basically rattled off a really good checklist for any nonprofit media company to immediately apply. So I'm going to ask you one more question. I think we've all, particularly in the past few months, we've heard this saying, garbage in, garbage out. And I think, it's very related to the AI conversation. I think the other side of it, the positive side, is with such a wealth of high quality and trustworthy content out there, media brands such as PBS are sitting on a gold mine of content that you can turn into fresh formats. So I'm just curious, what are some creative ways that you've been thinking about content repurposing and even digital products?
This is where the crazy idea list starts. So one idea that's been on my mind for a long time is like, ask PBS anything. Imagine if you could have a chat dialogue with PBS, and you could say, hey, who was that one actress in that one called The Midwife Show, but she was also in the Annika show. And you could have a dialogue there, or you could ask about a particular part of the show and you could get more information. And we could repurpose the content. We could use not only the LLM, train the LLM on all of the information with the transcripts and the data from that show, but to actually send out a clip, or to show like side by side the actress in those two shows or something like that. So that's one example that's been on my mind for a while. But expanding on that a little bit, a chatbot or retrieval bot specific to maybe a vertical, everything in the drama category, or everything in the news category, or everything in the food category, or everything in the parents category, where you could talk to the PBS parents chatbot and it could give you recommendations. Hey, it's 2:00. My kid just got off the bus because it's a snow day, and I want something educational. They're 8 years old. They're in second grade. I want it to have some Spanish language. What should I put on? It would tell you that, and then it may also play that on the TV or the device that
I
your
would
kid
use
will be
that.
watching. You would use that, right? It's a good idea.
Yes.
We talked a little bit about personalized recaps. So I think it'd be really cool. We've got a lot of shows that are documentaries that are very long, right? Hours long. And it might be hard to remember everything that happened, or maybe there's something that you like in it. For example, we're going to have one, or we had one on Leonardo da Vinci that Ken Burns put together. And maybe you like Leonardo's paintings more so than his drawings, or maybe you like some of his inventions. And so we could create a personalized recap to Stephanie for the inventions and for Mikey for the drawings. And it could show video clips of those in maybe a short sequence, and maybe that's sent out via email, or maybe that's even on the app when you log in. And so that personalized recap could make a huge difference. And generative AI could really be the one that does all the hard work, right? It could sort through all the video files, find all of those invention clips, pull it all together, maybe even write a short little description or script. And then all a human has to do is double check that script, double check those clips, and then make sure it gets sent. And so I think that's another fun way in which we can repurpose content with AI. But there's lots of different things too out there that are on my mind as it relates to distribution and processing and other things we can do internally too. Like our creative teams sometimes need new script ideas for promos. And again, even an LLM, just having all that information in there internally that someone could search and say, okay, we've got a new show coming up, and we want to look through all the transcripts to see if we can come up with a creative idea about a particular point in that show that creates something that is really emotional. What clips should we look at? And instead of them having to watch whatever 10 hours of footage, it can
Right.
summarize all that and give that to them really quickly. So there's lots of fun ways that we're thinking about repurposing that content, and AI is going to take us there to new levels, and I'm very stoked for it.
I love that. I'm not on social media for all the reasons, but I love a concept of a PBS app, which has a personalized feed of clips based on stuff that I'm into. And 100% I can see how AI would power that. So very cool. Very cool. I love that. Make my world better, please.
I'll do my best.
All right. Well, thank you, Mikey. This has been great talking to you today.
Thank
So
you.
brilliant, so interesting, so fascinating. Can't wait to see what you all come up with next.
Thanks, Stephanie. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too.